You're standing in a forest. It's 40,000 BC. Your hands are empty. Your world is falling apart, slowly, because everything you own, everything you need, keeps slipping. The rock you want to tie to a stick falls off. The bundle of firewood you're dragging home scatters everywhere. That animal skin you want to hang up to dry, there's just no way to hold it together. You don't have glue. You don't have nails. You don't have a hardware store. You've got trees, plants, dirt, and two hands that can't be everywhere at once. And then, one day, somebody picks up a vine, twists it, ties it around two sticks, and it holds. That's it. That's the moment. This is the story of how humans invented rope. And no, I'm not being dramatic. Rope might be one of the most important things our species ever made. Bigger than the wheel, older than farming, and almost nobody ever talks about it. Now, real quick, if you're the kind of person who loves the hidden stories behind everyday stuff, do me one tiny favor. Hit that like button and subscribe. Seriously, it takes 2 seconds, and it's the whole reason I get to keep digging up weird history like this. Okay, let's get into it. Here's the thing nobody tells you. You can't build much of anything without rope. Think about it. A bow needs a string. A spear needs binding to hold the point on. A net needs knots. A raft needs lashing. A shelter needs something to tie the poles together. Rope isn't just a tool. Rope is the tool that lets you build other tools. And that's the part that blows my mind. Before rope, every human invention had a ceiling. You could sharpen a rock, sure, but you couldn't attach it to anything. The second we figured out how to bind two things together, the entire game changed. So the real question is, how did we figure it out? Because rope doesn't grow on trees. Well, okay, kind of it does. But turning a plant into a strong, usable cord, that takes knowledge. And that knowledge is ancient. Let's start with the easy part. Nature basically handed us the first rope. Vines, long, stringy plant stems, strips of bark peeled off a tree, even long, tough grasses. All of these could be grabbed and used to tie stuff right away. No processing needed. So the very first rope wasn't invented at all. It was found. Some early human grabbed a vine, wrapped it around a bundle, and it worked. Simple. But here's the problem. Found materials are weak. A single vine snaps. A strip of bark tears. Grass falls apart in your hands. If you're going to build a bow, you'll pull 1,000 times. Or a net that holds a struggling fish, you need something way stronger than one plant stem. And this is where humans did something genuinely brilliant. Somebody, somewhere, figured out the single most important trick in the history of rope. If you take a bunch of weak fibers and twist them together, they become strong. Really strong. Way stronger than the sum of their parts. Here's the science, and it's actually beautiful. When you twist fibers together, they grip each other. Friction locks them in place. So when you pull on the rope, the fibers don't just slide apart, they squeeze tighter. The harder you pull, the harder they hold. The strength comes from the twist itself. Think about that. This is engineering. Real, actual engineering. And it was happening tens of thousands of years before anyone had a word for it. Some tired human, sitting by a fire, rolling plant fibers between their fingers, discovered a principle that we still use today. Every rope on every ship, every cable holding up every bridge, it all comes back to that one idea. Twist the weak stuff together, and it becomes strong. Okay, so how far back does this go? Buckle up. The oldest direct evidence of made rope is genuinely stunning. In a cave in France called Abri du Maras, archaeologists found a tiny piece of twisted fiber cord stuck to a stone tool. It's about 50,000 years old. And here's the kicker. It wasn't made by us. It was made by Neanderthals. Yeah, Neanderthals, the cousins we love to call dumb cavemen, were twisting plant fibers into cord 50,000 years ago. That cord had multiple strands, twisted in different directions. The exact same technique used to make rope today. These guys understood the twist. They understood structure. They were not stumbling around confused. They were craftsmen. And honestly, that should make you rethink everything you assumed about early humans. Now, here's where it gets interesting. 50,000 years is just the oldest piece we found, not the oldest piece that ever existed. And there's a huge difference, because rope is made of plants, and plants rot fast. A stone tool can sit in the ground for 3 million years, no problem. But a piece of rope? It's gone in a few years under normal conditions. Dissolved, vanished, eaten by bugs and time. So think about what that means. For every ancient rope we've dug up, there were probably millions we'll never find. Just don't survive. The absence of older evidence isn't proof it didn't happen. It's just proof that plants don't last. Most experts think humans, and our ancestors, were making some form of cordage far earlier than 50,000 years ago. Maybe 100,000, maybe more. We just can't prove it because the evidence literally rotted away. But we've got clues. Sneaky, indirect clues. Here's one I love. Archaeologists find beads, little shells and stones with tiny holes drilled through them, going back over 70,000 years. And you have to ask, why drill a hole in a shell? To string it, to wear it, on a cord. You don't put a hole in a bead unless you've got something thin and strong to thread through it. So those beads are basically a fingerprint. They're screaming, rope existed here. Even though the rope itself is long gone, the hole it needed is still there. Same goes for eyed needles, fish hooks with grooves for tying line, tools with binding marks worn into them. All of it whispers the same thing. These people had cord, they had thread, they had rope. We just can't hold it in our hands anymore. So let's get practical. How did an ancient human turn a plant into strong rope? Because it's not obvious. It's a whole process. First, you pick the right plant. Not every plant works. You need long, tough fibers, stuff like nettle, flax, certain tree barks, or specific grasses. And figuring out which plants? That took generations of trial and error. Somebody had to try the wrong plant, watch it fall apart, and remember never to use that one again. Then comes the hard part. You've got to separate the good fibers from the useless plant mush around them. Ancient people did this by soaking the plants in water for days, letting the soft parts rot away, then beating and scraping until only the strong, stringy fibers were left. This process even has a name today. It's called retting. Then you twist those fibers into a thin strand. Then you twist two of those strands together in the opposite direction. That opposite twist is the secret. It's what stops the rope from unraveling. And boom, you've got cord that holds. That's not luck. That's a recipe. A recipe passed down, person to person, hand to hand for thousands of years. And once we had rope, everything exploded. Suddenly, you could make a bow and hunt from a distance. You could make fishing nets and pull food out of rivers and oceans. You could lash logs together and cross water on rafts. You could build shelters that actually held up in a storm. You could carry heavy things, drag heavy things, lift heavy things. Fast forward, and rope is literally what built the ancient world. The pyramids moved with ropes. Ancient ships that crossed entire seas held together and powered by ropes and rigging. Bridges, wells, traps, tents, all of it resting on the humble, twisted cord. We tend to celebrate the flashy inventions, fire, the wheel, writing, but rope was quietly underneath all of it, holding the whole story together, literally. And here's the thing that gets me. Making rope is one of the oldest skills we have, older than pottery, older than farming, older than the wheel. Our ancestors were twisting fibers together before they were growing food or living in villages. It's such a human thing to do. To look at a bunch of weak, useless plant stems and see strength that isn't there yet. To imagine it. And then to make it real with nothing but your hands and your patience. That's the leap. That's what makes us us. Not just using what's in front of you, but transforming it into something better. So the next time you tie your shoes, or plug in a charging cable, or see a bridge held up by massive steel cords, or watch a boat pull into a harbor, take 1 second. Because you're looking at the descendant of a 50,000-year-old idea. An idea some quiet, clever human discovered by a fire, rolling plant fibers between their fingers, and thinking, wait, what if I twist these together? They couldn't write, they couldn't read, but they figured out how to take the weakest things around them and turn them into something that could hold up the world. And every knot you've ever tied, you learned it from them. You're still twisting the same fibers. You're still holding things together. You always have been.